Hi everyone, I'm Jayne at Rockin' Worms. Welcome to my channel. Tonight is going to be part 7, the final episode in the indoor tabletop pre-composting bin series. So what we're going to do is we're going to check in with the 2 bins that we set up several weeks ago, see where they are, and do a little recap on how we got to where we are and where do we go next. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at the cream bin. One of the things I want to point out right away is look how low this bin is. It was, if you look at the last video, the cream bin was right up here to the edge. It has sunk down quite a bit. That's completely normal and actually what you want to see in your compost bin. It's a sign that the biota is breaking things down. So I'm going to do a burrito, which is a little messy tonight because it seems to be a little off kilter. I haven't been in this bin for like 3 or 4 days. So we'll see what's in there together. Okay, the burrito is out of the way. Oh man, look at this. This is fungus and bacteria at full warp speed working on the organics in this bin. This is fantastic, especially in a compost bin that is as small as these tabletop bins are. Normally your composting is 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet if you're doing it outside as a minimum. This bin itself is only 20 gallons, so obviously much smaller than that outside bin. While I'm talking to you, I'm going to put the probe in. Let me, the temperature's already starting to go up just being in the area. The house was actually at 73, but just being in this area is making the temperature rise. Now I'm going to put the probe in, so it'll start going back up. Okay, so let's see what the temperature gets to. All right, so the fact that we have this type of bacterial and fungal activity in the bin is fantastic. Your worms are going to love this. This is a smorgasbord of their favorite foods right here in this bin. So if you're ever thinking, what am I going to feed my worms? And I can't afford to buy food for my worms, you can grow your own food for your worms using free and or cheap items like cardboard and free coffee grounds. All right, where are we? I'm looking at this upside down. It's at 105. Yep, that's pretty much what I expected. It might go up to 107. The max temperature that this bin obtained was 116 degrees, which is the hottest I've ever had an indoor bin and is really just freaking fantastic. There's just no other way to put it. That means that there's bacteria and fungal growth in here that you would not normally see in such a small bin. Okay, so let me do a little smell check here. I'm not smelling anything except warm. If warm is a smell, that's what this smells like. Yeah, there's no smell. There's no bad odor whatsoever. This bacteria and fungus does not smell bad. There's no smell. Okay, so we're going to say we're topping out at 105 degrees right now, which is, again, well within the range I expected. It is in its cool down stage. Now, what we could do at this point is a couple things. One, because the level of the bin has decreased so much, we could do another 3rd round of a heating and cooling cycle, which would be a repeat of the 2nd round, which was adding in more cardboard, more nitrogen, and more moisture. Maybe we could even add in another shot of yeast if we wanted to. And that would just continue the breakdown of the materials here even more. Or we have the option of, hey, this is pretty fantastic as it is. And like I said, our worms are going to love it. We could just let this bin continue to cool down, get to a stable state, which is generally determined to be less than 100 degrees, and then start using it in our worm bins, okay? And as I mentioned in a previous video, if you want to use this sooner and it's still a little on the warm, you can spread it out thinly on your worm bin because it'll cool down. It'll lose a lot of its heat because you're taking away its mass. And the other thing to do is leave a section in your worm bin. While I'm talking to you, I'm just digging into the corners here to make sure that I don't have anything anaerobic, going on. Because even if it doesn't smell at the top surface, I could have a little anaerobic going down in the corners or the bottom, because that's where the moisture pulls because of gravity. And you could get a little anaerobic activity down below. And I think I'm smelling a little bit of anaerobic going on. Again, that's perfectly normal, and it smells a little sour. That's all. It's not disgusting. It doesn't make you want to throw up. It just smells a little sour. And all I'm going to do to fix that is add some air into the compost bin by mixing it up. And you'll want to do this in your compost bin on a occasional basis, even after it reaches a steady state, because you still have bacteria functioning in here. You're going to want to make sure it remains at least lightly moist so the bacteria can continue to live. And anytime you have the moisture in there, you again want to just dig through every 3-4 weeks and just make sure you're not getting any anaerobic activity down at the bottom. Okay, so where was I? Cameraman, do you remember what I was talking about?
We're talking about aerating at the aerobic activity.
Before that.
Spreading it out to let it cool.
Right, thank you. All right, so if I want to, see this area is a little extra moist. See, and you can see some moisture coming up. And again, it just means mix it up. So if I want to use this in my worm bins just the way it is, it's great. I just let it cool down a little bit, get to that stable state, and use it. Oh, I know what it was. So the other way you can use this in your worm bin, if it hasn't quite cooled down all the way, is in your worm bin, leave a section that doesn't have the compost on it, so your worms have a place to go if the compost is still a little warmer than they want it to be. It kind of gives them an escape area. It gives them a place to hang out until the compost and the bacteria just slow down their operation, and then the worms can move back in. That's what I wanted to say. All right. So how did we get here on the blue bin? The cream bin. So the cream bin had a rough start in life, okay? We had started the cream bin, and then it quickly got put to the side because of some technical issues, and we moved on to the blue bin. And the cream bin just sat there for a couple of days, ignored by me, and just wasn't doing anything. So I decided to come back, look at the cream bin, and get it back on track. And what I found was I had a lot of little issues that needed to be fixed. Not a lot, mainly three. The first one was I didn't have enough mass in the bin. Because we had stopped making the bin, the mass to start off was like down here, half, low. And there wasn't enough mass to keep the heat that was being generated by bacteria inside the bin. And this heating bacteria cycle is, I'm done with that side, is a positive feedback loop. You get some bacteria working, it heats up the compost. The bacteria like it, make more of themselves, more bacteria, which then heats up the bin more, and then you get more bacteria, and the cycle continues. And at different heat levels, you get different types of bacteria operating. All right, so I didn't have enough mass. So that was problem number one. Easy fix. I added more cardboard. I added more nitrogen. I added more moisture. And I was good to go. Except, no, I wasn't, because I had another little issue, which is I had dry pockets, which means I hadn't mixed in materials enough. So I had large sections where my cardboard and my nitrogen and my moisture were not talking to each other. That meant bacteria was not able to colonize that area and therefore not grow and give me heat and therefore go into that positive feedback loop. So after I fixed the mass, I had to fix the mixing, which I did. Now I'm good to go. Well, not quite. I also had an experiment going on where I had left, let me just go over to this side, and I think I'm done in this bin. I also had an experiment going on where I used a large plastic shopping bag from a local store as the lid, as opposed to the shred and screen burrito topping that you saw me take off at the beginning of this video. Well, air is a necessary component to this system because the bacteria are alive and they need to breathe air. With the plastic sides of the bin and the plastic bag on top, I simply wasn't getting enough air into the system, even after all the other components were correct. I still needed that crucial air. So once I switched over to the burrito top, the screen, the shred on top, the bacteria started to react and the heat went up. And everything was good. The bin was cooking along. Now, we did take it and kick it up to the next level for the second heating and cooling cycle, and we'll talk about that when we work on the blue bin. So let me close up the cream bin with the burrito top. Say goodbye to the cream bin. This is the last you're going to see it on this cycle, because its next stop will be to be added to my patio tabletop pre-composting bin, where it will join the dregs of the previous bins and combine, and I'll now have one big bin of pre-compost that I can use on my worm bins and my plants too. I'm planning on using this around some of my peppers and eggplants that I have on the patio as compost. So let's move over to the blue bin. All right, goodbye cream bin. It was great knowing you. Okay, here's the blue bin. And here's the burrito top. For the last time, can't speak highly enough of the burrito tops. They serve so many great functions, one of which is moving the whole shred top out of the way very conveniently. Okay, what I'm gonna do is put the probe back in. It had gone down to 73, I should have showed you that, but it did. And now it's doing this temperature on this bin. This bin also got up to 116 degrees within 24 hours. I did a pin comment on the part 6 video on it that noted that within 24 hours, this bin also had gotten to the 116 degrees, okay? What are we at? 105. Yep. Again, completely expected. Now, you will notice that this bin also has some of that visible bacteria and fungus shreds, but not as much as the cream bin. These systems are live systems. Each one will vary slightly or greatly in how it responds to the environmental circumstances around it. Exactly how much shred is in here, exactly how much nitrogen, exactly how much liquid, things like that. They all are variable, and your biota will react a little bit differently. So your temperatures will be a little bit different bin to bin. But still, at 107, okay, at 107, this is still a very acceptable heat level in, again, this size composting pile, right? Because it really is a composting pile. So let's take the take the probe out, set it aside, and give it the old smell test. Nothing. Nothing at all. This is great because, again, I promise you, if you work your bins and keep that carbon to nitrogen ratio in mind, keep it damp but not soggy wet, it will not smell. This is perfectly capable of being inside your living quarters and not stinking the place up. Okay, so I really encourage you to give it a try. Now again, when I talk to you, I'm going to dig down in the corners, see if I have any anaerobic pockets developing. And I'll do that when I talk to you. Okay, so this bin started off much better in life than the cream bin did. It got all the attention it needed right in the beginning, except it didn't. I had the cardboard shred, I had the coffee grounds, I had the liquid, everything was great. It had the burrito top, so it had the air, and I had unmixed pockets. So when I think it was part 3, maybe it was part 2, but one of the early parts, I did some temperature readings with you guys, and I got surprisingly low temperatures, which signaled that something was going on. I feel a little wet down here in this corner. Something was going on. I went back into the bin and found, see, even here, look at, even here, I have still some little pockets of unmixed material. It happens. It's very common to have this in any pile of size, okay? It's just, you know, it's a challenge to get every shred covered. And you know what? When you find them, you mix it in and you move on. Okay, so I had pockets of shred, but not little ones like this one. I had some big pockets of shred. So I had to mix it in. And once I mixed it in, it went right back to working how it should. And I got up to, I think, like 111 degrees. I think I might have had a pocket of 113, which again is very good temperature rise for bins of this size. All right. So after this kicked up, I was able to take it to the next level like I did the cream bin and add in, excuse me, that secret ingredient, which was the yeast. So we added in the yeast, mixed it all in, and let it do its job. And again, got up to 116 degrees on this one. This one doesn't seem to have any anaerobic pockets in it right now. So this bin, like the cream bin, is perfectly ready, on its way to be used in your worm bins. All you need to do is let it continue to cool down a little bit and then use it in your bins. All right. The next stop for this bin is also my patio bin, because I have to decide whether I have enough compost to keep me happy for a while, or if I'm just going to turn around and start 2 new bins and get more compost going. So I have plenty for top dressing in my garden. Okay, This is great. All right, so you guys get the drift here. So I'm gonna close up this bin. So the last thing I want to talk to you before I wrap this series up completely is going back to something I said earlier. These bins are living systems. Although I started out by giving you a starting point for how many gallons of shred to use, how many gallons of ground coffee grounds to use, how much liquid to use, these are general guidelines. You have to adjust them to fit your circumstances. How big are your bins? How deep are your bins? What kind of material are you using? Are you using shred? Is it big shred, small shred? Is it some other type of nitrogen and not coffee grounds? These all work. What I wanted to do is give you a framework to start with and then allow you to start finding your own way and what works for you. And I have to tell you, a couple people have posted in the comments that they have started their own indoor tabletop composting bins. And I am super excited and a little proud that somebody has taken this on and is trying it for themselves. And I am very eager to have them post what their results are and share their journey with us, because we can always learn from each other. We need to take what people tell us and use it as a starting point in order to move forward in our own ways and direction. And always remember to use what you have on hand, what you can get for free or reasonable price, and make it work for you. Okay? So thank you for joining me on this series. I hope to see you again and again and again as we tackle more interesting projects and experiments and just keep moving forward in our worm journey. All right, so I'm going to leave you here tonight. Thank you again so much for joining me on this. I will see you again. I am yours in the dirt, Jayne.